So this is a little bit different. This video right here. I just wanted to basically every now and then do a video about, I would say, my opinion on, it could be anything from politics to social issues to community issues involving um, any community. But primarily, most of my topics are about the Black community and political issues that are either within the Black community or even some issues that are cross-cultural or outside of the Black community. Issues having to do with social awareness, social issues, politics, things that not necessarily that are always tied to a person's background ethnically or racially, but um, maybe situations that happen like just everyday situations. But this in particular video is, I know you see there's a collage of some famous, some not famous, some maybe they're models, they're Black males. And a lot of times I feel that it's not said enough, but I really do believe that there was a plot um, to break up families in the Black community. And one way to do that is to incarcerate, jail, stigmatize, and abuse and tarnish the images of Black males. And then when you work your way through Black males, then you go to Black females. And you do the same. You tarnish the image of Black females, and 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 then when you get done with the males and females, the mother and father, then you go to the children and you tarnish their image and you make all of the negative images stand out to the public so that a group of people can be feared or hated, disliked, stigmatized, abused, verbally, physically, mentally, emotionally, in every facet of society. If it's the workplace, school, education, keeping people from building wealth. Um, I just really feel like it started with the top. And, they had this image where, and I'm sure this is not just here in California, it's in every American lifestyle where they have this image of a nuclear family. And I believe the nuclear family has to do with the male. This is before, um, like in the 60s and the 70s, the nuclear family, the male, the female, and then the children, the dog, the White House with the picket fence, the nuclear family. And I believe what had happened was there was so much racism that they used whatever tools in society that the people who were a part of covenants, racial covenants, groups that were involving supremacy of a white social economic class that is supposed to be looked at as revered and at the top in the hierarchy of society being the ones that are running the country and running the U.S., running, basically looked at as running the world. Um, but that's the impression, that's the view then. And I still feel like some of that still holds true. Some of that still holds true, but there's a lot of changes that have been made over many years and decades. There's been some laws, there's been acts, there's been some fighting in politics and debates and a lot of things that have taken shape, but I still feel like the impact of what has happened for so many years and so many decades has really put a lot of people at a disadvantage and caused a lot of headaches, but it also has caused some positive things to come out of some of the negative things that have happened thus far. And so you have people who have somehow they become educated, or they've acquired wealth through their talents. They become political figures, activists, community leaders, maybe even lawyers, doctors. We have people that have tried to overcome the obstacles that were put in their way despite a lot of the hatred that has been persistent for so long. And so I feel like the reason why a lot of the things that we experience is because of a lot of the things that have happened from before have kind of shaped who we are as people now. And that's the reason why a lot of people they'll become more empowered. They'll try to learn about who they once were, or who people were that looked like them once were. Um, and they become more aware of why things are the way they are. And then you have others who they regress and they either feed into the stereotypes and live those stereotypes because they see no other way out of their circumstance, or there's people that they rise above the stereotype and they become successful in whatever it is that they aim to do, and they try to do whatever they can to not let anything stand in their way. And sometimes that comes with a price. Sometimes it works for some, and others it may not work for as many, but in the same fashion. Sometimes people will have a wave of success, and then that wave, um, it that wave passes, and someone else acquires the wave. So it doesn't always happen for everyone. Success doesn't always come when you want it, and sometimes success may not be being famous or being somebody that is outspoken, and a lot of people recognize you for your words of encouragement, but then others may develop a business and become successful at that. Maybe they are successful at helping a community of people. Maybe they're not as widely known, and they don't acquire all of their merits, awards, and recognition until maybe after they're dead and gone. And it's unfortunate, but there's even some people who have paved ways for other young people who are now successful in a great way. And maybe in their lifetime, they didn't feel like they were recognized. They didn't get the recognition they deserved until after they were deceased. And now people look back and they look at the struggle that the person experienced, endured, and they pay homage to them through maybe movies, books, poetry, documentaries. And it's sad because I feel like despite a lot of the things that have happened to Black people or people of color, people who are here and everywhere, anybody from in other places, that we're strong individuals despite a lot of the things that have happened up to now. And I believe it'll continue to be that way, where we will be strong individuals. I really do believe that there was a plot to break down the Black nuclear family and to divide us and to make us hate one another, to make us hate our image, to make us despise each other, to break us apart, to make us argue, to divide us as people and create divisions. And now we have so many divisions in so many areas, um, having to do with politics. It's crazy now. So, not everybody has the same mindset and beliefs. And so I think that's a human thing more than just, where just necessarily who the person is. I think it's a human thing because we're individuals, no matter what the race, um, if you will. So, but what I've noticed is that now we are learning to appreciate each other despite our differences. Some of us are. Some of us have a lot of more work to go. But here I have a collage. It has all these models and famous people. Some of the people you can look at them and tell they're already successful, and some people may not be as widely known. They may just be a model. And I think I used this because these were images, and if you look it up, they're images because I felt it was the best way to express um, this video. Um, some people become successful and some people become successful in different ways. So I really still believe that was the first thing that whoever was in cahoots and orchestrated trying to destroy the Black community was to destroy Black families. And they've been doing that for many, many years, many decades. It started even as far back as slavery by separating people, ripping families apart, um, dividing people, taking people away from where they came from, and taking their languages and their cultures away, making them confused so they don't understand who they are. And the same thing is happening with other communities. And I feel like the same people who were doing that then, they're the same people, but they're new people that have had that passed down to them from a generation of people who all they wanted to do was destroy people, because they had an ulterior motive of trying to control populations of people and to do whatever evil biddings that they had in store. And if it was to keep a certain group of people down, that was one way to do it, is to create a lot of division and a lot of confusion and a lot of separate separating families and separatism, and to keep people fighting. And this didn't stop with just black community. It also extended to other communities. And so to women and men fighting against each other, to religion, to poison it, and to put all these people against each other, to have the purpose of hurting one another based on religious beliefs that are extreme and that go far beyond what religion was created, I believe, by males. Um, and the males that created it, I believe, not all of them were perfect. And it could have also been created also by communities of people who were indigenous. And maybe in its purest form, it wasn't meant to create confusion. But over the years, when people have, changed the wording, or they've changed the sentences, or they've changed the meanings, or their understanding and belief of things has been altered, or is made to believe something a lot different in the time they're living in, somewhere those doctrines or those scrolls or those things that they've learned have gotten really confusing. And so now you can't really trust even religion alone, because the people that are mouthing it are not really sure that they know what they're teaching. And then if they're teaching something, it isn't in its purest form. It's soured, or it's watered down, or it's been poisoned by people's beliefs, their own preferences, and it has caused a lot of confusion. It's caused hatred of people, that some of the things that people have created are made up to hate others, never existed in those religions, and people just somehow conjured them up to make it seem as though that was the right way to treat people. And so you have groups of people who have been ostracized, who've been belittled, berated, who've been killed based on somebody else's being unaware or uninformed, uneducated, uncomfortable with someone else having specific differences. Everybody's not going to look the same or be the same. Um, so I think that over time, a lot more changes will happen. Of course, I'm not just saying religion alone, but I'm saying just people, because we're people. People change, times change. The things that maybe we were interested in the 60s, some people are still interested in, but it's different now. What was in the 70s and 80s and 90s, a lot of those things have changed. Some people still look at it, but we're in the 2000s. So, when this decade is over, people will look back and say, wow, we've changed again. So I think that's the thing, is people are going to be people, and not everybody always has the same mindset, but what we do share collectively, if we have some commonality in maybe features, phenotypically, or maybe a cultural background that's pretty similar. What I can say is that I believe that there had been a plot to destroy black people in general. And you can also emotionally destroy people. maybe not in the physical, but in the emotional, where you can make them unmotivated to work, unmotivated to get educated, unmotivated to build anything, because when they've tried, they've failed so many times because someone wouldn't give them the opportunity to succeed. And so when you see or you hear all these stories about how people have attempted to try to build things, and people will come and burn it down, or they'll come and they'll kill people that you love, or they'll separate you, or they'll make laws so that you can't succeed in the things that you're trying to accomplish, will cause others to look at that and say, oh, well, I'm going to go around it. Or some will say, oh, we can't do it, because those same people will come along and they'll do the same thing to us. And so you can emotionally destroy people and communities by doing that, by showing them how hateful you are. And I believe that was another tactic that was used. And I believe that has actually passed on to this generation of people, where some have felt unmotivated to become the things that are the people that they would desire to be, because of knowing all of the horrible things that have happened. Maybe people you grown up with, people in your family that have expressed some of the efforts they made to try to succeed in life, and they were there and they lost everything, or they were almost there and they failed, not because they were a failure, but because someone created a barrier that they could not go around or go under or over. They created a barrier based on race, or based on money, or you don't have enough money to do this, or you don't look like us, or maybe you're educated but you don't look a certain way. So there was a lot of things that have happened that have created a lot of barriers for people. So that's why some people have been unwilling to venture in areas that they know that others have, and had the door closed on them. However, some will still be persistent and try to go past all of that. And somehow, maybe one or two will succeed. Maybe a couple will succeed. But that isn't the majority of people. And so people got to realize that. I believe that's the reason why some of the people that we see here in Los Angeles, we have a large homeless population. Some have been dumped over here. They've come from other places. The weather is a lot better here than it is on the East Coast when it comes to cold weather. So I believe that homeless people have been carted over here. But then, however, are homeless natives of California who maybe at one time they had dreams, they had goals, they had a nuclear family, and all that was slowly but surely destroyed. And in different forms. It could have been divorce, it could have been a death in the family, maybe a medical emergency they couldn't afford to deal with. Maybe they fell prey to substance abuse. It could be a number of things. Something traumatic happening in the person's life that changed their life for the long haul. And so when you mix race issues and political issues into that, it can even make things either it can explain why it happened, but it can also show how bad it was and why it was like it turned out. But I believe that is what they start with, is the males, and that's why we have so many incarcerated. To this day, there's still a lot of black men that are incarcerated. There's black females that are incarcerated. Children, I believe they were going to try to get rid of the juvenile hall, or the juvenile institution. They were going to try to cut some of that down. But I think that has a lot of taxpayer money That's why, a lot of things that could go to schools, could go to businesses, could go to trying to rehabilitate people, is the money is put in, negative institutions to lock people up and to throw away people's lives and basically destroy them emotionally. Because what do you have when you get out? You don't have, you know, anything good. Um, you have to start all the way at the bottom. You lost a lot of years. You have to relearn things that you didn't know. Jobs may not want to hire you. Some do. I think things are starting to change. I heard they were going to try to incarcerate less and they were going to try to do more home arrests. I don't know how that would be going, but they were talking about that would be in the works. Being a new method of incarcerating people where they would be homebound, but they'd be in their communities. And if your communities are poor and they don't have a lot of opportunities, then you're imprisoned in your community. So I don't know if that would be necessarily a good thing either. So anyway, I'm gonna let this video go. I just thought I would share a little bit of what I've come up with opinion wise in this. I feel like it's like a gradual process to basically mar and make a community handicapped. But I believe that that's not everyone. Everybody is not handicapped emotionally, physically, socially. Some people look at those negative things and try to go outside the box and say, those things happen, but I'm gonna try to see if I can go around or over or above those things. And no matter what happens, I have me, and it's better than giving up. And so I think ultimately in the end, it depends on the individual as well if you're going to give up. A lot of things can happen that can create a person with a mindset to give up. And so some things are very traumatic. It depends on the level of trauma that people have dealt with and what they can handle. And some people can handle more than others. So in saying that, and I'm going to leave you with this. Recently, I posted a video about what happened with Malcolm X. There is a documentary about him. I thought it was fitting to mention these issues because he was one of many males, black males, that they really, FBI, NYPD, white supremacist groups, people that hated him, tried to paint this picture of him being overly militant and an extremist in the black community. But I feel like he was more about trying to build the black community and they were afraid of him. And I feel when a black male is powerful and he has education and he's able to stand for himself and his community and he speaks on issues that get under the skin of people that have tried to do everything to discredit people of color, it makes them afraid. So they'll do whatever and use whatever tactics to try to destroy them. And little by little, they'll break down that nuclear family. And so if you look at some of the documentary shows about the life of Martin Luther King, the life of Malcolm X, the life of many of these leaders, how they tried to firebomb their house or burn their families out or scare their wives, scare their children, create things in the media to paint the picture of these people as being evil or troublemakers. This was the tactics that they use. I still believe these peoples are maybe still in existence. There's just other people doing it, and they're using other ways of trying to destroy people and communities. So, having said that, I'm going to let this video go, but you have to always look at what's real and reality and know that some things are bad, but there's always some good that can come out of what bad has happened, and it can create an awareness. And I think more people are becoming aware of what has happened, and that is the good that has come out of this. So hopefully they will get some closure, the family of Malcolm X, learning what they know now, what most people have known. And then since 2020 and now we're in 2021, we saw the protests, and there's still protests. We're still trying to get through this virus, all these things that have gone on. And now we're seeing people of different backgrounds, not even just black people, but from all over that have had struggles with race issues, with economic issues, with homelessness. And so we know these problems are even bigger than just looking at people's color, but color does have a big stage in it, but also economics is starting to be at the forefront. You know, people who have and people who have not. You know, the wealthier versus the poor, and we're starting to see a lot more of that. And that's scary because when does that ever end? You know, are you going to just keep pricing things up so that nobody has anywhere to live? You know, so I just don't get it, but I'm going to let this go. Hopefully we will see some changes, even with that, some fairness in it. Anytime you have to use hotels to house the homeless, come on now, you know, we're living in a time of dystopia. You know, people don't know if they can go back to work, if it's safe. They're afraid they're going to get sick. They're afraid what is supposed to make them well is going to make them sick. They're afraid of vaccines. There's all kinds of fears, and some of that stems from racial issues from the past, how blacks were used as subjects for studies. They weren't studies. It was awful, you know. And you're hearing more and more about all those things that happen. I mean, somewhere it's got to end. Thanks for listening.